If people can reach you anytime for any reason, without effort, they stop listening when it matters. Not because they hate you, not because they're cruel, but because the human mind quietly devalues what never requires patience. Centuries ago, Niccolò Machiavelli observed something uncomfortable about human nature. Familiarity does not breed respect. It breeds casual disregard. This isn't about ego. It's not about playing games. And it's not about pretending you're better than anyone else. It's about a silent law that governs work, relationships, and social standing. A law so old it existed before modern psychology had a name. When you are always available, you teach people, without saying a word, that your time has no weight. And once that lesson is learned, authority quietly collapses. In this video, we'll uncover 7 traits, 7 silent behaviors that determine whether people value your presence or take it for granted. These are not obvious mistakes. They don't look dangerous at first. In fact, most people practice them every day, believing they are being kind, open, and approachable. But one by one, these traits slowly dissolve authority, influence, and respect. Each part reveals one layer. Each layer builds on the last. And by the end, you'll see human behavior and your own actions very differently. Let's begin with the first trait. Number 1, the moment respect quietly disappears. There is a moment no one warns you about. It doesn't come with an argument. It doesn't come with disrespect to your face. It arrives silently. One day, people stop asking when you're available. They just assume you are. Messages arrive without urgency. Requests come without courtesy. Your opinions are heard, but not followed. You're still liked. You're still included. But something is gone. Machiavelli understood this moment well. He noticed that rulers who made themselves too familiar lost something invisible long before they lost power. Not fear, not love, presence. When people know they can reach you at any time, they stop preparing for you. And preparation is respect. Think about your own life. The coworker who always answers immediately. The friend who cancels their own plans to help everyone else. The partner who is endlessly accommodating. At first, they're appreciated, then expected, then overlooked. Not because they did something wrong, but because the human mind adapts. Machiavelli saw this as a pattern, not a flaw. Humans value what feels scarce, not because they are evil, but because scarcity signals importance, and availability signals replaceability. Y-axis rewires how people see you. The brain is lazy. It creates shortcuts. One of those shortcuts is simple. If something is always there, it must not be critical. Machiavelli never spoke in neuroscience terms, but he understood the outcome. When access is unlimited, attention drops. That's why people respect deadlines more than open invitations. Why meetings feel serious when they're scheduled, but casual when they're whenever. Why leaders who speak rarely are listened to more closely than those who talk constantly. It's not volume, it's restraint. When you're always accessible, people stop adjusting themselves for you. They stop choosing words carefully. They stop arriving prepared. They stop considering your time. Authority doesn't come from demanding respect. It comes from shaping behavior. And behavior changes when access is limited. This isn't manipulation. It's alignment with human nature. Machiavelli warned that appearing too easy to approach dissolves the invisible boundary that separates influence from friendliness. That boundary matters more than people admit. The danger of being the nice one. Many people fall into this trap because they are good-hearted. They don't want to seem distant. They don't want to disappoint. They don't want to be misunderstood. So they say yes. They respond fast. They stay open. Machiavelli would say this is where kindness turns into weakness, not morally, but strategically. When people know you'll always be there, they stop valuing the moment you show up. Think of authority like a flame. Too much exposure, and it goes out. Distance doesn't make you cold. it makes you defined. The mistake is believing respect comes from constant presence. It doesn't. It comes from selective presence. Picture two coworkers. One replies to emails instantly, no matter the hour. The other responds thoughtfully during set times with clarity. Who is interrupted more? Who is trusted with bigger decisions? Who is taken seriously when they speak? The second person isn't arrogant. They're consistent. Machiavelli would say consistency builds expectation, and expectation builds authority. People don't resent limits. They resent unpredictability. When you create boundaries, people adapt. When you remove them, people consume. How authority is actually built. Authority grows in silence. It grows when people wait for your response. When your presence feels intentional, not automatic. Machiavelli believed power was not in domination, but in perception. And perception is shaped by contrast. If you're always there, your presence blends into the background. If you choose when to appear, your presence has weight. This applies everywhere, at work, in friendships, in families, in relationships. Being respected doesn't require harshness. It requires rhythm. Practical shift you can make today. Here's the simple adjustment most people never try. Delay without disappearing. You don't need to vanish. You don't need excuses. You simply stop responding instantly. You let requests sit. You choose windows of availability. You respond with intention, not reflex. Machiavelli would approve, not because it controls others, but because it restores balance. Your time becomes defined. Your words regain gravity. And people begin to adjust to you. The hidden benefit no one talks about. Something unexpected happens when you become less accessible. People start respecting themselves around you. They prepare better. They think before asking. They value the interaction more. You didn't demand respect. You invited it by not giving everything away. That's the paradox Machiavelli understood long before modern self-help tried to soften it. Respect grows where access is earned. If everyone can reach you anytime, your presence loses meaning. Authority isn't built by availability, it's built by intention. Distance doesn't push people away, it teaches them how to approach you. But here's the real danger most people miss. Once respect is lost, trying to reclaim it the wrong way makes things worse. In the next section, we'll explore the irreversible mistake people make when they realize they've become too accessible, and how Machiavelli would quietly fix it without confrontation. Number 2, the moment you feel authority fading. The problem doesn't start when respect fades. It starts when you notice it. That moment hits quietly. You feel it in interruptions, in people pushing back just a little more, in requests that sound like demands, in the way your words no longer land. And almost everyone reacts the same way. They panic. This is where Niccolò Machiavelli would shake his head, not in anger, but in disappointment, because the instinctive response is the most destructive one. The fatal mistake people make when they feel respect slipping. When people sense they're being taken lightly, they try to correct it. They explain themselves more. They justify their decisions. They speak longer. They become louder. Some become stricter overnight. Others become colder. Some swing between the two. All of it backfires. Machiavelli understood something brutal but true. Once authority is diluted, forceful correction only exposes the loss. Trying to demand respect after giving unlimited access is like trying to reclaim mystery by oversharing. It doesn't work. People don't respond to explanations. They respond to changes in behavior. And when behavior changes too suddenly, it triggers resistance instead of respect. Why explaining yourself destroys what little authority remains? Here's a hard truth most people never hear. The more you explain your boundaries, the weaker they appear. Not because explanations are wrong, but because authority does not require permission. When you say, "I'm busy because," I can't right now because. I usually answer fast, but today. You're negotiating your value. Machiavelli observed that power weakens when it seeks approval from those it should simply lead. In everyday life, this looks harmless. In reality, it trains people to debate your limits. And once people feel entitled to debate your availability, respect has already left the room. The silent difference between firmness and aggression. Many people fear setting boundaries because they confuse firmness with hostility. They think, if I pull back, people will think I'm rude. If I say no, I'll lose connection. If I change, I'll look fake. Machiavelli would say this fear comes from misunderstanding human nature. People don't resent firmness. They resent unpredictability and emotional reactions. Aggression is emotional. Firmness is quiet. Aggression demands compliance. Firmness assumes it. Authority lives in assumption. When you calmly act as if your time matters, people adapt faster than you expect. Picture someone who's always available. They answer messages instantly. They jump on last-minute requests. They fill every gap. Then one day, they try to regain control. They send a long message explaining new boundaries. They talk about burnout. They ask for understanding. What happens? People nod politely and test the boundary anyway. Why? Because behavior taught them one truth for months or years. Access was free. Machiavelli knew that once a pattern is established, words do not undo it. Only new patterns do. Why sudden distance feels offensive? There's another trap people fall into. They disappear abruptly. No replies. No explanation. Cold silence. This doesn't create respect. It creates confusion. Humans don't respect confusion. They resist it. Machiavelli warned that sudden shifts destabilize perception. People don't think. They're authoritative now. They think. What happened to them? And uncertainty invites challenge. Authority isn't built by shocking people. It's built by training expectations slowly and consistently. Here is the move Machiavelli would make, not loudly, not dramatically, but effectively. He would change availability without changing tone. Same calm voice, same warmth, same presence, different access. You stop responding instantly, but you respond clearly. You stop saying yes automatically, but you don't apologize. You stop explaining, but you remain respectful. This shift is subtle, and because it's subtle, it works. People don't feel attacked, they feel adjusted. The power of delayed response. Delay is not avoidance. Delay is recalibration. When you delay responses consistently, people begin to choose better timing, ask more thoughtfully, reduce unnecessary requests, not consciously, instinctively. Machiavelli understood that people mirror the structure you impose. If you respond at random, they behave randomly. If you respond with rhythm, they fall into rhythm. Authority is rhythm. Why consistency matters more than confidence. Most advice tells you to be confident. Confidence helps, but it's not the foundation. Consistency is. You can be soft-spoken and respected. You can be kind and authoritative. What you cannot be is inconsistent. If today you answer instantly, tomorrow you disappear. Next week you over-explain. You confuse the system. Machiavelli would say confusion erodes power faster than kindness ever could. People don't test boundaries to be cruel. They test them to understand where the line is. If the line moves, respect disappears. Reclaiming respect without confrontation. Here's the practical framework. Reduce availability quietly. No announcement, no justification. Respond fully, not frequently. Fewer messages, more clarity. Hold tone steady, warmth stays. Access changes, let discomfort happen. Their discomfort, not yours. This last part matters. When you stop being overly accessible, people feel a small loss. That loss recalibrates value. Machiavelli believed loss sharpens perception. You don't need to create fear. You need to remove excess comfort. Think about someone who is always emotionally available. always listening, always fixing, always accommodating. Over time, their advice carries less weight. Their presence becomes expected, not appreciated. When they finally try to assert themselves verbally, it often fails. But when they subtly stop filling every silence, when they pause before responding, when they stop rescuing, something changes. The other person leans in, not because of manipulation, because absence reawakens attention. Why respect returns slowly but powerfully. Here's the part most people give up on too early. Respect does not snap back. It seeps back. There's a period where people test you. They message again. They push once more. They act like nothing changed. Machiavelli would tell you, this is not disrespect. This is recalibration. If you hold steady, calm, consistent, unreactive, the system resets. And one day, without ceremony, things feel different. People wait. They ask. They listen again. The inner shift you must make first. This only works if you believe one thing deeply. Your value is not proven by availability. If you secretly feel guilty for not responding, if you fear being disliked, if you equate access with worth, you will leak weakness through tone, timing, and behavior. Machiavelli believed power begins internally. Others only reflect what you silently assume about yourself. When you stop treating your time as negotiable, others follow. You don't regain authority by explaining, demanding, or disappearing. You regain it by quietly changing access while staying emotionally steady. Respect returns when your presence is no longer guaranteed. But here's the deeper layer Machiavelli understood, and most people never see. Sometimes people don't just lose respect because you're accessible. They lose it because you're predictable. In the next section, we'll uncover how predictability kills authority and how controlled unpredictability restores it without chaos. Number 3, why predictability destroys authority. Authority isn't just about being available. It's also about being predictable. Even if people can't reach you instantly, if they know exactly what you'll do or say every time, respect quietly fades. Niccolò Machiavelli understood this instinctively. Predictability breeds familiarity, and familiarity, over time, breeds disregard. Why predictability is dangerous? Think about it. You always answer the same way. You always help the same way. You react the same way to every problem. At first, it feels safe. Later, it feels expected. Eventually, it feels trivial. People stop preparing for you. They stop considering your time. They stop weighing your words. Machiavelli knew, respect is maintained when people never take you for granted. Controlled unpredictability restores authority. This doesn't mean chaos. It doesn't mean being manipulative. It means varying your availability subtly, responding thoughtfully rather than reflexively, showing initiative in moments that matter. Small, intentional changes in behavior remind people, this person matters. Their presence has weight. Even in everyday life, work, friendships, or relationships, subtle unpredictability sharpens attention. 2 managers, always available, always consistent. Mostly available, occasionally silent, sometimes offers insight before being asked. Who earns more respect? Who makes people prepare, think, and listen? The second one, Machiavelli would point out, attention is earned, not expected. Practical steps for daily life. Mix response patterns, don't always answer instantly. Reserve insights for key moments, don't overshare. Adjust availability quietly. People notice the rhythm more than the words. These small shifts feel natural, but restore authority without conflict. When you stop being entirely predictable, people pay attention again. They consider your time and effort. They value your presence instinctively. This is not manipulation. It's alignment with how humans naturally respect scarcity and nuance. Machiavelli observed, authority is the shadow of perception, not the result of loud action. Predictability dulls authority. Even if you limit access, if your behavior is too easy to anticipate, people stop valuing you. Respect is rebuilt when your presence feels rare, deliberate, and meaningful. But predictability isn't the only trap. Next, we'll uncover how over-availability in relationships and work silently erodes influence and the exact Machiavellian strategy to regain it without creating conflict. Number 4. Why availability becomes a liability. Being available isn't just about time. It's about how your presence shapes behavior. When you give too much, emotion, energy, advice, people stop valuing it, not because they're cruel, because human nature quietly adapts. Niccolò Machiavelli recognized this centuries ago. Influence collapses when it's handed away freely. The silent erosion of influence. Think of your daily interactions. Always saying yes, always helping immediately, always sharing your thoughts. At first, it feels productive. Over time, it becomes expected. People stop noticing effort. They stop weighing your words. They stop respecting your decisions. Authority doesn't vanish suddenly. It erodes quietly, unnoticed, like water wearing stone. Why over-availability kills influence? When people know they can rely on you without effort, they stop preparing for interactions. They stop taking your guidance seriously. They assume your time is theirs to consume. Machiavelli observed, value is defined by effort and attention required to obtain it. The more you give freely, the less you are considered important. Work. The colleague who always answers emails instantly is trusted less with decisions. Their opinion becomes background noise. Friendships. The friend who's always available stops being appreciated. Your advice loses weight. Relationships. The partner who always accommodates without boundaries is taken for granted. Subtle influence fades. In each case, over-availability doesn't create connection, it erodes authority. The Machiavellian solution. The fix isn't harshness. It's intentional absence and selective engagement. Respond deliberately, not reflexively. Hold certain moments for yourself. Keep energy and insight reserved for situations that matter. This isn't manipulation, it's recalibration. People begin to notice your presence again. They think before asking. They wait for your response. They value your words. Practical steps for today. Set clear windows of availability. You don't need to vanish. Just structure your presence. Pause before helping. Let people consider their request. Reserve advice for meaningful moments. Don't over-explain or overshare. Machiavelli would call this shaping behavior without confrontation. Too much availability silently destroys influence. Authority grows not from constant presence, but from intentional, measured engagement. Next, we'll reveal why people respect what they cannot easily reach and how mastering scarcity in everyday life quietly restores authority, as Machiavelli would advise. Number 5, why scarcity creates respect. Respect is not demanded. It is earned through scarcity. People value what is hard to reach, not what is handed freely. This is a timeless truth that Niccolò Machiavelli observed long before modern psychology existed. When your presence, advice, or time is always available, people stop treasuring it. When it's limited, suddenly it has weight. Scarcity signals value. Think of everyday life. A colleague who schedules meetings instead of answering instantly is listened to more. A friend who doesn't always drop everything for others is appreciated more deeply. A partner who maintains personal space is respected more profoundly. Why? Because scarcity triggers attention, preparation, and consideration. Machiavelli understood this principle. The rare is revered, the constant is overlooked. The invisible force of scarcity. This isn't manipulation, it's natural human behavior. Humans respect effort. Humans value patience. Humans notice what requires intentionality. By controlling access to your time and energy, you silently teach people how to treat you. If you give everything immediately, respect erodes. If you give selectively, respect grows. Two friends need advice. One is always available. One responds after some thought. occasionally offering insight at key moments. Which friend is more trusted? Which advice is weighed more carefully? The answer is obvious. Machiavelli would argue, value is defined by effort required to obtain it. Practical steps for daily life. Set boundaries quietly. You don't need to announce them, just practice them. Offer guidance selectively. Let your input carry weight by giving it thoughtfully. Structure interactions. People begin to respect what is not always immediately accessible. Even small adjustments create the perception of value. The hidden power of subtle scarcity. By limiting access, people prepare before interacting. People take your advice seriously. People reflect before asking for your attention. This builds authority without confrontation, without force, without arrogance. Machiavelli would call this a masterful alignment with human nature. People respect what they cannot easily reach. Accessibility teaches familiarity, and familiarity quietly erodes influence. Authority is restored when presence, advice, and energy are deliberate and intentional. In the next section, we'll explore how to maintain this authority over time so that respect becomes habitual rather than fragile, just as Machiavelli would teach. Number 6, the discipline of lasting authority. Authority is not a one-time achievement. It is a living rhythm, built, maintained, and silently reinforced. Even if you limit access and create scarcity, consistency over time is what turns respect into habit. This is something Niccolò Machiavelli emphasized without words. Power is sustained by repeated patterns, not grand gestures. Why authority fades without rhythm? Think about it. You set boundaries for a few weeks, then slip back into instant availability. You reserve advice thoughtfully, then overshare freely again. What happens? People notice. Respect quietly slides back. Your authority becomes fragile. Machiavelli understood, inconsistency destroys influence faster than overexposure. The power of deliberate patterns. Authority is reinforced through predictable intentionality, not predictability of behavior. This means your presence matters because it is consistent in quality, not constant in quantity. Your guidance carries weight because it is measured, not random. Your time is respected because it is structured, not chaotic. Even small daily habits, like responding thoughtfully within certain windows or reserving insight for key moments, compound into influence. Practical framework for maintaining authority. Define your availability clearly, quietly, consistently. Respond thoughtfully, quality over quantity. Keep key insights and actions deliberate. Don't overshare or overreact. Repeat the pattern, let people internalize your rhythm. The repetition teaches people how to behave around you. It trains respect without words, conflict, or drama. A manager who answers strategically instead of instantly is trusted. A friend who speaks with care rather than nonstop is valued. A partner who maintains personal boundaries is respected. The secret isn't scarcity alone. It's consistent, deliberate scarcity. Machiavelli would argue, authority is the echo of intention, not the sound of presence. People stop testing boundaries. They anticipate your rhythm. They respect your time, advice, and presence automatically. Authority becomes habitual. Not forced, not feared, simply recognized. Respect is not built by bursts of effort or random boundaries. It is maintained through consistent, deliberate patterns of availability and engagement. Finally, we reach the last layer, how to close the circle and make this authority timeless. In the final section, we'll reveal the ultimate Machiavellian strategy to remain respected for life, without arrogance, without drama, and without losing connection. Number 7, the final lesson of influence. The moment of mastery comes when you realize this simple truth. Authority is never demanded. It is quietly earned, maintained, and reinforced through deliberate presence and absence. For most people, authority feels like a battle. They think it comes from speaking louder, acting faster, or proving themselves endlessly. But Niccolò Machiavelli understood centuries ago that true authority is subtle. It is the invisible current beneath every interaction, the silent weight your presence carries because people have learned to value it. The final secret: presence shaped by intention. Every action, every pause, every measured response builds your reputation more than words ever could. Presence with intention creates gravity. Absence with purpose creates anticipation. Consistency with flexibility creates trust. These three pillars together are the foundation of authority that lasts, not fleeting power that disappears the moment people stop watching. Machiavelli would remind us, the eyes see the moment, but the mind remembers patterns. Authority is the pattern. Why this works in every area of life. Work. The colleague who responds thoughtfully within certain windows is trusted with decisions, given responsibility, and noticed for leadership, not because they demand it, but because their presence has weight. Friendships. The friend who listens fully, offers advice sparingly, and maintains personal boundaries is cherished and respected. Others plan around them, ask before taking, and value their contributions. Relationships. The partner who balances availability with independence draws deeper connection. Emotional energy becomes precious, and each interaction carries significance. Respect is not enforced, it is chosen. The quiet power of human nature. Why does this strategy work? Because human nature craves meaning. Scarcity signals importance. Effort signals value. Rhythm signals trustworthiness. When you align your behavior with these truths, you do not manipulate. You do not force respect. You simply become someone whose presence matters. Machiavelli would say, "The wise do not shout their power, they embody it." And when they do, the world responds naturally. A personal framework to apply now. To live this fully, consider these steps. Define your boundaries intentionally. Know when you are available and when you are not. Respond with care, not urgency. Thoughtful responses are remembered. Reserve key energy for moments that matter. Insight, effort, and time become precious commodities. Maintain consistent patterns. Let people learn your rhythm without surprises or extremes. Balance presence with absence. Both are tools to shape perception, not punish or control. These are not rules. They are principles of human psychology that Machiavelli understood and applied in his time, and that continue to govern respect today. The timeless lesson. Authority is like a flame. If you are always present, it flickers weakly in the breeze of familiarity. If you are absent or reactive, it goes out entirely. But if you measure your presence, protect your energy, and show up deliberately, it burns steadily, guiding others silently toward you. Every human interaction becomes a reflection of your value, not your availability. Every relationship, professional or personal, carries weight because you have taught people to notice, anticipate, and respect. Machiavelli would call this mastery of perception. But for you, it is simply living in a way that aligns with the timeless rhythms of human attention, effort, and desire. Remember, respect is not given. It is earned in the silence between appearances, in the weight of absence, and in the rhythm of deliberate presence. Do not rush. Do not overexpose. Do not explain too much. Let your authority grow quietly, invisibly, but unmistakably. Because when presence becomes rare, thoughtful, and intentional, you do not have to demand respect. It is offered freely, naturally, and forever. And in that quiet mastery, you discover something far greater than authority. You discover the dignity of being valued, not by force, but by the timeless laws of human nature. Being too accessible destroys respect. Distance, deliberate engagement, selective presence, and consistent patterns quietly restore it. Authority is not in being everywhere. It is in being seen, noticed, and remembered. Every day, in work, in friendships, And in relationships, you have a choice: to vanish into availability or to shape your presence with intention. The difference is subtle, but the result is eternal. If this message resonated, don't let it end here. Subscribe to the channel, not for noise, not for trends, but for timeless lessons on human nature, authority, and quiet power. These ideas don't change with time. Only our awareness of them does. Join those who choose intention over impulse, presence over overexposure, and respect over approval. Subscribe and continue shaping your influence quietly, deliberately, and unmistakably.